tripping our way through the 4th of July weekend. Welcome back inside the studios of KEVT, Power Talk 1210 AM, Sahuarita, Tucson. Happy 4th of July. This is the Jake Feinberg Show, hour number 2. We just heard from a great rhythm guitar player, Bill Cutler, and thank you so much for being part of the program today. The distinctive sound of the Bay Area comes from individualistic drummers like my guest. My guest wound up in a psychedelic rock folk outfit known as the Quicksilver Messenger Service, a group of Mavericks that combined a wide range of instruments into their music, which allowed it to span multi-genres. You hear all the influences in their music, and it starts with their drummer. He could play hard-driving rock or bossa nova. He could play Afro Cuban rhythms or hold it down, while a horn section led by Ron Taramina blew over the top. His influences were his peers, Errico, Billy Kreutzman, Spencer Dryden, Eddie Moore, Eddie Marshall, and his bandmates like David Freiberg and John Cippolina. Paradiddles and polyrhythms with a new accent on the blues, complete with a very loose structure and a Western psychedelic approach that helped cultivate the sound. Greg Elmore, an honor to welcome you to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Hey, Jake, how you doing?
Good to hear you, man. Happy 4th of July.
Happy 4th to you.
Can you talk about, you were born on an Army base in Southern California, is that right?
Navy base, Coronado, California.
Can you talk about, so your dad was an officer?
No, he was in the Navy. He was a navigator.
So, can you talk about your experience growing up as far as seeing big bands?
It's hard to hear you on this phone, but yeah, I lived all over the western states. I moved every 3 years. My stepdad was in the Air Force. So, I didn't live in one place too long. Had a lot of different influences.
Well, why don't you talk a little bit about, I'm just trying to get, when I listen to your drumming, you're playing behind the beat. Sometimes you're playing ahead of it. Your timing is impeccable, but we were just listening to a track with a whole bunch of polyrhythmic stuff. And so I'd like you to talk about a couple of guys that had an immediate impact on you that helped inspire you to play the drums.
Geez, I guess, although you can never say I sounded that way, one of my favorite drummers was guy with Dave Brubeck and Joe Morello.
Was it just,
and of course there were the English drummers and assorted soul drummers around America. Like I don't know, Little Richard, the guy with Little Richard, stuff like that. Buddy Holly. This is going way back. Also, I spent 3 years living in Tucson. I was there when Buddy Holly and all those guys died. So my roots go back a ways.
Yeah, no, it's. Can you talk a little bit about how Morello, was it just his perfection? Can you talk a little bit about what got you off with him?
Just the sound of his drums were so melodic and thunderous. Plus his timing, to me, it always seemed like he always made it feel like it was in 4/4, but it wasn't.
Yeah, exactly.
And for a rock guy who's real elementary, that was one of the first bands that turned me on to jazz. He was a great drummer. He's a great drummer.
Did you get to?
I finally got to see him one time at in Frisco. He was doing a seminar. That was nice.
How did you learn to tune your drums?
Well, when I was 11, I started playing in school bands, and I just developed a lot of my stuff from those days.
I guess what I'm saying, like I talked to a couple drummers, like one time talking to David Kemper, who was a great session drummer, and he said that Jim Gordon and him were playing double drums on a session, and Jim actually helped him figure out how to tune his drums to make them sound so warm. And I just wonder if that was something that there was somewhere along the line, one of your peers helped you discover how to. You have a very distinctive sound, or the tone you get. And I was wondering if you had any experiences like that where one of your peers helped you cultivate that sound.
Not really. I spent a lot of time tuning and trying to figure out tuning and different tunings. Went from small drum set to big drum set and back down. Just spent a lot of time doing it, trying to figure out what sounded good in a live setting and what didn't, That's basically it. I didn't have much help outside of school.
Did you learn mainly from records? Did you get off on guys like Philly Joe Jones and Art Blakey and Max Roach and those cats?
Yeah, some a lot. Picked up a lot from records. Like where I lived, didn't have an opportunity to go and see very many people. When I lived in Merced, we'd go and the band in unit would go and see like the Merced Blue Notes. They were a terrific little band down there. And then, like I say, Joe Morello. Just mainly records. Yeah. Trying to figure out what they were doing, and try to carry what off I could.
Right on. No, I mean, and then, how did you wind up moving to the Bay? Did you just decide at a certain point that you wanted to go to a happening music scene, or did you arrive in the Bay Area before things were really percolating?
It was about the same time. The band I started, the Brogues, with Rick Campbell and Eddie Rodriguez, Bill Whittington, had just broken up, and Gary Duncan had come into that band. So him and I just we tried out L.A., and then he knew Chris Brooks in Frisco, so she let us move in for a while. She knew John and David, or John and Jim Murray, rather. And David came in after he got out of jail. But we just moved up here and just happened to have a good time.
Would you say you were one of the founders of the Brogues?
Yeah.
So one of the L's on my show, Greg, is leadership, and I just wanted you to talk about a couple qualities that you think could be in music or in anything else in life that you believe is good leadership.
Oh boy.
Gonna stretch you out here, man.
I don't know if I'm a good leader or not, but just the ability to get along with people and hopefully they understand what you're saying.
Can you give an example?
Jeez.
I mean, just go back to you and Gary Duncan when you guys were starting to work things out, or with Cippolina. Was there a time, not just, it could have been any of the cats, but where you looked back and said they exuded leadership and it helped the band stay together?
I don't know. It's just stating directions, like out of the 5 properties of rock and roll, blues was one of them. And Cippolina walking up to me one time and going, "You like the blues?" I'm like, "Yeah, blues is it." So, and we connected on that.
Talking to Greg Elmore, a legendary drummer from Quicksilver Messenger Service. Is it David? It's David Freiberg, right? Is that how you pronounce his name?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was in jail at the time before he joined the band.
Yeah, he got out like a month later, and he was a folk singer, guitar player with him and a woman. And he got out of jail and then strapped on his bass and turned to me and goes, how do you play bass? I went, oh no, oh, it's like this. So that was a funny time there.
Did you play bass or you,
No,
but
no,
you,
I just told him, I consider myself more of a rock drummer, so I said just connect what the front men are doing and what I'm doing, and you should be okay.
So can you talk about what he brought? I mean, you were bringing, I don't, Greg, maybe, so you had, what kind of formal schooling? You were in the school band, but I mean, there were no jazz curriculums. There was no academia. So,
No.
You could, when I listen to certain albums from Quicksilver, there's elements of folk and classical, and there's also, like I said, there's Latin tunes and, bossa nova. And were you even aware that you were playing this stuff, or did you really hone your chops? How did you grow as a drummer through those years? I mean, you can't just stay stagnant or you're going to die.
Well, I don't know. I just played what I thought the band would dig, and hope for the best. That's all I can say about that. No, I had no formal schooling. There was no rock and roll college curriculum or any of that stuff then. Nowadays, all the drummers, well, a lot of drummers here on record are college graduates, and they hold degrees in drumming, and that's cool. That's fine. But I just grew up in a different time, is all.
How do you think it helped you went through one of the most explosive growths in music history. How do you think not having the music being taught inside the classroom helped that growth?
I think it's not being under anybody's thumb, per se. I don't know if that's a correct term or anything. See a lot of shows on TV where people are coached and told to do this and do that. And I think I had the opportunity to just be left alone and come up with what I could on my own.
How did you and Freiberg, mesh early on, especially because he didn't know the bass? I mean, how did you guys communicate musically, and how quickly did you fall into sync together?
It worked out fairly easily. We all lived in the same house for a while, and I think Gary Duncan helped him out a lot on the side. They were both note players, so I think mainly just being in the same house around each other for a year or two was a big influence. We couldn't afford to live separately, so I hope that answered the question.
I was hoping you could talk about maybe how you got to really be thinking about, where you didn't. It was a nonverbal thing where you guys really got locked into a groove.
Yeah, we just listened to each other and tried to compliment each other.
Well, Greg, we're going to put in a piece of music here right now.
All right.
And I want you to take a listen to it. It's called "Name That Tune," and then we'll come back and break it down. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Feinberg Show, sponsored in part by the Stereo Hospital, Circle Tree Ranch, Dee's Island Grill. Thank you so much for your support, and the Stereo Hospital as well. All right, Mr. Elmore, what do you got for us? Can you name that tune?
No, I sure can't.
I love Greg Elmore. I'm so.
One is singing. I think Gary Duncan played guitar, and Chuck Sticks on organ, I believe.
Oh man, laying it down, and this guy Ryan on bass, Matt Ryan, maybe.
Okay.
That was
Mark Ryan.
Mark Ryan,
yeah.
1972. Quicksilver Messenger Service. The name of that tune, California State Correctional Facility Blues.
Okay, all right.
Can you, Greg, you don't have to relay any personal experiences, but you guys did find yourselves in trouble with the law quite a bit. But, you guys found your way out of jail, given a lot of second chances. I mean, you were able to salvage. You guys wound up in jail quite a bit.
Yeah, a lot of the boys did. Yeah, we were definitely no angels.
Would in today's world, would it have eliminated your ability to? You would have been in jail for much longer. I mean, sentencing's much longer now, mandatory minimums and all that kind of stuff. Whereas, maybe can you just describe like a slap, like Freiberg was in jail and it was a slap on the wrist and he was out in a few months. I know when I interviewed Merle Haggard, his record was completely expunged by Governor Reagan in '72. I'm just trying to get, I guess what I'm just getting at is the idea that you guys were not angels, great musicians, but you burned it at both ends. But how disruptive were the periodic time spent in the California correctional facilities?
Well, I think Gary Duncan wrote that tune, if I'm not right. I don't know. We played San Quentin once. We weren't inmates there. We just played there. A lot of the boys, I guess me and Cippolina stayed out of trouble pretty much. Or at least as long as we didn't get caught.
You guys just didn't get caught. That's the whole thing.
And David and Dino had the most trouble with the law, just from acting goofy, like walking down the street, smoking a joint, stuff like that.
Right. And how did the just for my own, because I was born in 1978, how did the authorities handle like smoking a joint? I mean, would you spend a few days in jail? How did you get them out? How did you work as a band to get the guys out of incarceration?
Well, I don't know if we had anything to do with it. John Cippolina's stepdad was a wheel in Mill Valley. He's a big real estate guy. So he had a lot of pull with the authorities. So I think they may have just turned their backs on a number of things.
What was
that was a different time,
Oh, it definitely was. I mean, and like you said, you were such an innocent guy, never getting into trouble at all, I guess.
Never getting caught. Never getting caught,
and that's the key. Gary Duncan, who were his influences on guitar? What kind of jazzers was he into? Because you guys were partners before Quicksilver.
Yeah, but I never really heard him play much until after Quicksilver got started. I mean, in the Brogues, he was just a stand-up frontman, singer. Eddie Rodriguez handled the guitar parts. And, but I don't know. I never really questioned. We just, everything just sort of fell into place.
So the other, one of the other L's on my show is love, and I like to talk to you about your concept of love, and how you bring it to people, and how you bring it to your music.
I'm sorry. What was that?
One of my show is predicated on the 4 L's. So we've done leadership. The second one was love, and I wanted you to talk about your concept of love and how you bring love to people in your life.
Oh boy, I don't know about that. I don't know. I was glad to be a part of something that people still remember and liked. There's weird times when music seemed to bring everybody together more than anything else. There was civil strife, political strife, military. There's just a lot going on back then. And it seemed like the only place people could turn was to the music. And I was just glad to be a part of that.
You tell me a good story about Billy Kreutzman?
Tell you a story about Billy?
Yeah.
Oh, jeepers. I don't know.
Well, I just got off the phone.
I was doing my laundry one day, and
go ahead.
He came out of 7-Eleven. He goes, I know I'd run into you sometime. or anything would be at the laundromat. So, well, I can't afford a maid, so there you are.
Because I just finished up an interview with Bill Cutler, and he talked about, when he came out, fundamentally, when he first came out to the Bay Area, you guys were very close with the Dead. You guys were doing very different things musically, but you guys were close. So, and you're drumming,
Yeah.
and Errico's drumming, and and Kreutzmann's very unique stuff. And I just wanted to know, like, were you, did you and Billy have a chance to? So obviously you crossed paths in the laundromat, but when you played bills together, did you trade ideas? Did you just by listening? What stood out to you about him as a drummer?
Well, of course, everybody watched everybody else, but we never really sat down and talked. Like I warned you about, I'm not a stellar conversationalist.
You're doing a fantastic. You're doing a fantastic job. You're doing a fantastic job. So continue.
But no, he's a great drummer, and so is Mickey Hart. I got to go out to the barn one time and watch them on their stuff, and they were terrific. But no, it's mainly just we played a lot of shows together and just watching each other. Develop respect over the years, I guess.
Is it also, as I'm getting into listening to more Quicksilver studio albums, I haven't really explored the live element that much. Was Cippolina one of the first, was he the first cat in the Bay Area to be playing lead electric guitar?
One of the first, yeah, I believe so. Yeah, I think that'd be a safe bet to say. Yeah, it's more rock and roll than anybody else.
Mm-hmm. Greg, can you, from my generation, I realized that your sound man was Owsley Stanley, and I was hoping you could talk about your relationship with him.
Well, it's hard to say. I didn't really converse with him. It's pretty much it was their gig, to make the band sound good. If the band didn't complain, I didn't say anything. So, that's pretty much a quiet guy.
But you were, I guess, I've talked to Dave Getz about this, and I've talked to the drummer from Big Brother, Billy Cobham, Stanley Clark, a lot of guys. I wanted you to talk about because psychedelics, LSD was legal at that time, and you could go and get it. And I wanted to know how psychedelics helped you expand your music and the transcendent quality of it, and how it affected you internally, introspective wise.
Well, I don't know. They said you'd never have any flashbacks, but I don't know about that.
You've been having some?
No, I don't know. I don't know. It's it made you think more broad-minded about stuff.
Like what?
I couldn't be so tunnel vision on what I wanted to do per se. That I had to include people more.
Include them in what way? In a musical sense?
Playing wise, playing different stuff. Like I said, I was pretty much tunnel vision on like the early rock and roll, and that was the stuff I wanted to play.
Mm-hmm.
And then Quicksilver happened, and we were just playing all this different stuff. And I just did my best to fill in as I could.
And you feel like LSD helped you be less stubborn? Is that right word? I mean, adaptable? Is that a fair way to say it?
Yeah, that's probably a good term. Yeah.
Because the reason I bring up Owsley is because he would be dosing the entire crowd and the band. I mean, you were really part of the acid tests.
Yeah. Yeah, we used to take 1,000 micrograms a piece to go play the Elmore. And I got to do all the driving.
But it was pure and it was legal. And I guess what I'm getting at, the demagoguery of drugs in our society, and I'm not speaking about hard drugs like heroin or coke or anything like that, but I am fascinated. I mean, Dave Getz talked about how psychedelics helped him connect with his inner blackness, with his black self. You know?
I remember him saying that. Yeah.
Okay, and so what I'm trying to get at is saying, like for you were pretty headstrong, big rock and roll guy, and yet you had to adapt yourself to this country psych rock folk amalgamation of Quicksilver. And I just feel like we're in a very square time in our society now, and I think it's really important for guys like you to talk about how mind expanding it was. Aside from you were micrograms and seeing visuals and whatever, but the positive influences of it and how it connected you and made you more introspective. I really want you to talk about that.
Wow. I don't know what to say other than, it made me much more patient for outside influences, music and socially.
Could you give an example of something in Quicksilver that normally you would have fought, but you let it go?
I guess like playing a Ravel rhythm. That song, Ravel?
Absolutely.
Classic tune.
Mm-hmm.
I played like a bastardized version of the drum in one of our songs. And I probably would have never done that before, But it seemed to fit, and that's what the band went for, and I was fine with that.
What are you doing, just for the audience? I mean, it's such an honor to connect with Greg Elmore, just because of I've been on this mission to find all these great these great drummers from the Bay Area. Was Greg Errico an inspiration to you at all?
Yeah, it's entirely different. It's entirely different style. It's Sly and the Family Stone. Sly had the what was his name? The radio guy had his backing. So, but Greg was a great drummer. He was a great drummer, and I'm glad to see him made the Hall of Fame.
That's right. Are you playing at all these days, even if it's just at the just a private party, or do you still play the trap set at all?
Oh yeah, I got them set up in the basement. People are threatening me to start playing again, and I probably will. I'm too old to quit now.
Greg Elmore, man, I want to tell you, I know I stretched you out a little bit. I think we got some decent stuff. I hope you had a good time.
I had a great time. Thank you very much for thinking of me.
You bet, brother. We'll be right back on the Jake Feinberg Show.
All right.
Bye-bye.
I've been around the world a few times, but I don't understand. I just like to play the blues. It's not all the money that I want. I just like to play the blues. And I like for everybody to get together and all of us play the blues and let's have a good time. Because blues is where it's at. I'm telling you, I love it. I can't help but play it. So when you wake up in the morning,
you're a gig.
And ain't got no money, or no gig, whatever you call it,